Okay, folks, we have crowdfunding in September. And I alluded this in one of my other news videos that September from top to bottom is probably, if not it is possibly the most stacked month. And I know that you're used to me saying that or clickbait thumbnail or anything like that, but truth be told, I'll be covering more games this video than any other month because there are such significant games of note or interest. And again, interest from your standpoint, also interest from my standpoint. The ones that you should have your radar on, the ones that might surprise you. Look at my Gen Con list and look at all the interest on the ones that I said should be of interest that then people said, oh wow, this is actually of interest, that weren't the ones covered by a lot of other people. So, I'm not saying I got a good eye for these things, but I got a good eye for these things. I like to actually put it out there so people just don't think I'm a shill. I am a shill, but I don't get paid enough to be an actual shill. Let's go. What do we got going on though? Because where do you actually start when you've got this many games? And let's go head to head. And I say that very cautiously because the one time I compared two games that were crowdfunding on my roundup, I had a publisher say, well, why did you compare us to them? It's not really a competition. And it's not a competition between publishers. That's never what I'm saying. But it's a competition in a sense of backers, of saying, again, I only have so much money as a consumer. And so when you've got games with similar mechanisms, similar interests, and similar overlapping just places on the table, I think that it's worth comparing and talking about. So when you have two of the biggest Euro worker placement style games of the last year and a half going head to head with expansions on the exact same freaking day, I am sitting in the audience eating my popcorn, going nom 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 nom. And that's because we've got Galactic Cruise, the achievements, and Andromeda's Edge, the Genesis expansion. And I used to do this when my channel was much smaller. I used to do the over-under or the prop bets, right? And I used to say, well, what do you think this one's going to be, over or under this amount of money? Or who do you think's going to raise more? And so, you know what, let's just go back to that for a second. Right now, who do you think would raise more? Andromeda's Edge expansion or Galactic Cruise? Galactic Cruise is the bee's knees of what have you done for me lately hotness on the heavy Euro side of things. Andromeda's Edge is so last year, literally last year, right? But it was on a lot of people's lists when we looked back at the best of 2024. So it also begs the question with a game like either of these of, 1.5 to 4 hours, whatever you play it as, right? Can you have too much of a good thing? New factions, new modules, new stuff, new of stuff you already have. A little bit more new stuff that you don't have. Achievements is giving us modular content that you're unlocking through 12 boxes of content. How do you feel about the unlocking of content, right? I would make the argument that anything along those lines where you're going to have to play it enough in that way in order to get your money's worth is not going to be worth it to a vast majority of people. Yes, I see the solo guilds doing 3,700 games of Andromeda's Edge by the time it's been out for 1 month. I see the Galactic Cruise solo junkies doing 400 games in a week. But that's the exception rather than the rule with almost any game. Look at any legacy game and how much trouble people have actualizing the experience that they see other people having. And that's where I struggle with expansions that add just so much more. Achievements, box of content, etching your name in history, and getting new everything. Right? Brand new innovations and inventions, new objectives, secret objective cards, right? Special ability tiles, more asymmetry in the form of Galactic Cruise. Again, like awesomeness, right? Andromeda's Edge is giving us more factions, more foes. Did this game have a lack of factions in the base game with the little separate add-ons as well in the first place? There was something like, I don't know, 14 plus? And again, it's a lot of stuff. More factions. 2 new foes. I love the Cosmic Frog, though, truth be told. More development abilities, more tech cards, more ability to control raiders. So, is it going to make an awesome thing for you even better? Potentially, yeah. But well, guess what I'm really saying is these also aren't going to make it easier for you to hit the table. It's not going to be like a streamlined, get it to the table easier expansion. It's going to be, we're going to make something bigger, even more ginormous. And if you couldn't get it to the table already, you like the idea of it more than the number of plays you have, neither of these is probably going to be the best fit for you. The other one that probably has the most interesting, I have no idea what to expect from this IP of the whole month, is Don't Starve from Glass Cannon Unplugged, another in their line of video game trends. Something like 40,000+ followers right now on the pre-launch page, which is insane for anything not named like Awaken Realms or Witcher, essentially, right? But based on the video game series, randomly generated nightmare world where science and magic are intertwined and you're going up against monsters. Unlike their most recent 2 of Dying Light and Apex Legends, which I should have a review of shortly before this or shortly after this video airs, I love the fact that this is cooperative. Crafting, I'm not sure how I feel about open world, highlighting asymmetric player choice and night and day conditions. So I'm not having any attachment to the IP in the first place. And it looks like with the standees that are in the pictures right now, it should be more approachable. But I do worry about the crafting and storage in terms of upkeep, because that's probably been part of the biggest problem of Glass Cannon Unplugged's games in the first place. Is not that like it's bad, but there's just so much to manage in this way. This is my motion for manage. I don't know why I'm continuing to do this, because it's just a fun thing, and then I can throw it at the beginning of a video to make it look like I'm weird, but I am weird. But that's the question. How cooperative? How long? End game? How do you win? How do you lose? Those are the key features that I think are going to set it apart one way or the other. And then 2 that I have hands-on copies of that I will be talking about and doing a video for prior to the launch. Azure and Moytura from Bitewing. And again, like I'm a Bitewing shill, so, you know, again, asterisks, say whatever you want, right? But they put out stuff that is approachable, that is asymmetric, and that is head-to-head. And those are features of games that I really, really enjoy. And now with Azure, for example, you've got a 2-player, 20-minute or less game of control on a board with stones, essentially. Using them to then get points and cast spells, essentially, to surround beasts' mountains in order to gather their abilities. And again, it's more of like a very abstract with a layered on theme, but with the ability to change the grid that you're using in a 2x2 square situation to flip it around and orient it in many, many different ways. So the replayability, the difference there is going to be there without having to need a 30-page rule book. Moytura, competing factions, where, again, you're dealing with enemy clans at the same time. So a P versus E, a player versus environment, or in this case, the game itself, to score points in a little bit of an area control Dutch auction style. Select your deity, get their actions. Activate cards for the enemy's AI system. Keep track of what's going to happen. 7 different map setups. Again, 2 players, slightly longer. And the best thing about the Bitewing situations, right, is the previous ones that I've covered. It hasn't always been the one that I thought I was going to love that I ended up loving more after playing it, which is what you're looking for when a game comes like this. But both of these seem on the surface very, very tactical. And so I would say arguably that they're going to be probably less overall strategic, but more based on a turn-by-turn game states type situation and mechanic. But in case you were wondering, and in case you didn't see this, Trevor Benjamin, David Thompson, you remember them? That's the folks behind Undaunted, right? That's Moytura. And then Trevor is doing Azure with Brett Gilbert as well. So the pedigree for a two-player situation there should make you excited if you like any of their previous offerings now with a different spin. Then the biggest question mark of the month for me, the biggest, wow, this could be something to blow your socks off, blow the roof off of funding in general for the month, surpass maybe anything that isn't Don't Starve, but also one that I can just see people going, is this actually going to work? Because Bezier has the hype drummed up for the game makers. They had Heavy Cardboard play it earlier in the year. They had Shut Up and Sit Down, I believe, talk about it on their direct. But can you make a game that is so meta, wink, wink, nod, nudge, nudge, and yet have the approachability and the dynamic gameplay that's going to live up to that? Because I would make the argument that this is a wide berth that they are trying to span. It's not listed as heavy. It's up to 6 people. It's so in the know style of making all of the Board Game Geek Top 100. I love the incorporation. But I also wonder the appeal if you're someone who's not waist deep in the hobby. How does this sell? What is going to be the selling point for this in the first place? Is it just the over-the-top deluxeified situation that Bezier has done with their previous sets of Silver and Castles of the Mad King Ludwig? Or not, right? Dice rolling with resource management, worker placement-ish? How do you feel about that? Because it's kind of a combination of systems that we haven't seen. So it's either going to be incredibly clever, unique, or is it just going to be too much? And that's why I just don't know what to frickin' make of this. This could be anywhere all over the place, especially dependent on price. And I guess I wonder what the reason for backing it is going to be in the first place. It's not like the money isn't there to be thrown around, right? We're seeing it at the time of me filming this with the Arc 3 edition. 3 edition because they actually didn't do 3D edition. It's 3 edition. Anyway, it's a whole nother, you tried to be clever and you were almost too smart for your own good situation. And so the money is there. We're seeing almost $2 million at the time of me filming this being funded in that way. So people are willing to throw money out for reasons along those lines, whether it is deluxeifications for games that do have no additional gameplay content, or games that are just getting bling the hell out as the reason for getting them on crowdfunding in the first place, which is where the pendulum has swung. And so I have to imagine that's what's going to be here too, with fully upgraded components and big box storage to allude to you. Or is it going to be expansion driven in the sense that they're going to not include all 300 of the real world games from the 100 real world publishers that they've recruited from, and they're going to box some of them into expansions that way. It's very upfront about being a, quote, love letter to the board gaming hobby. But I don't also know quite how to interpret that, I guess, is where I'm going. Inside Up is also bringing us their next one in the form of Kalypso, with a floating settlement building tile placement game in a world that is, well, Waterworld, the board game. And so can you expand and place structures and make it a little bit of everything? Because solo cooperative competitive with modular objectives and escalating scaling difficulty. I have no idea. The main question is going to be what, with those things that I just said, actually sets it apart from the 100 other really, really good tile layers that you know are out there and that come in some way, shape, or form like this. There is only one small insight into a thought of what it does from UK Games Expo and Board Game Geek, and otherwise there's no information yet about what else we're expecting to see from Inside Up. Now we also have looming as well the upcoming Chibicoya Trilogy and the often hard to obtain Aqua Garden with its subsequent successors in the form of Sky Garden and Dino Garden. Can you make all three of these games uniquely, distinctly different enough? I mean, the wooden meeples are fantastic as a whole. And Aqua Garden is one of those where whenever I see it on the secondary market, it's snapped up very quickly. Chibicoya's import over to anywhere outside of Japan is pricey enough that all of his previous games have been, well, a lot cheaper to get on crowdfunding, and they have been the best way to get the things you have been missing previously. But like any set of subsequent iterations, you know, Nemesis, Zombicide, Marvel United, whatever it may be, however big or small, let's just even talk the most recent of this, right? The Span series, Wingspan, Wormspan, Finspan. Do you need all three? Great Western Trail. Are you going to find one that is your preferred version of it because you know people are going to get the set? You know people are going to be enticed by the Siren's song that is crowdfunding. The Siren songs of get it now or miss out, as opposed to FOMO. It's a better abbreviation too, by the way. You can do that one in your head while I talk. Of getting them all and then having to sort things out as well with that in that terms. So that's going to be the big question there of what is going to be different. Is it going to be as spanning as the spans? Will you see the dramatic difference? Is it going to be a little bit safer of the twist in each one of them? And that's where we have yet to see a whole lot. Dragori is also coming back with us on this month as well with their version of more of a Slay the Spire Dead Cells situation in the form of Spellrift Legends. Unique decks, enemies that adapt to you, open world, Slay the Spire inspired deck builder. Cooperative, 1 to 5. Okay. You've got the Dragori miniatures on the page, but we're getting legendary heroes going up against void creatures. That's going to be the question with these apparently dual use cards as you upgrade. How does this do stuff? You've got one-shots, you've got campaigns, you've got heroes with up to almost 50 upgrades available to craft your asymmetric powers. Is it going to work in the sense of being something different enough? We're seeing several other iterations along these lines of things nowadays because success begets imitation. Eldritch Horror inspired Slay the Spire style deck, enhanced by their flair, as they say. You're forging a new world with new boards every single time, asymmetry across the board with the heroes, and again, I only worry about the fact that you've got miniatures being driven as the cost and the enemies on this board in the first place. And can you overcomplicate something like this is my fear more than anything else. Villains have 4 actions, unpredictable on the fly, discover something new every time of the dozens of times you play it, which is both scary, awesome, trepidatious, and frankly exciting. And so I just don't know, and I worry again about this being a little bit longer in tooth than anything else. Double-sided tiles that they are offering with 24 distinct worlds, each with their own encounters that you can mix and match at the beginning of the game, it sounds like, with these 8 interconnected pieces until you get to the void in the center. I worry that it's going to be draw and move, draw and move, draw and move, but you're going to be also having this sort of stat skill check, which again can be very hit or miss depending on how much control or how much mitigation you have in these each unique decks going up against these enemies. So I really like what I see, but we're going to see where it goes to and what the price point ends up being. Speaking of stuff up my alley though, I have a copy. I'll be talking about it as well. Disco Heist Laundry. Right? Yes, that's an actual game. Rock Manor is putting us out in the cooperative kingpin controlling 1980s radical gang of thug controlling, trying to get the most money, basically laundering in that way, your money to get away with it. And so you have tableaus activating your abilities on them to escape and plan the perfect heist. You get to compete recruiting your crew to get the biggest and most cash. So I think this game has a little bit of sleeper hit all over it if it can achieve what its promise is going to be set out for. And that's going to be the big question. But you know I love cooperative games, so you know I'm going to have some strong opinions on it as well. Wonderlands War is coming back to us as well in the form of the ever popular, well, expansion as well as dual versions of things. The White Queen and a Caterpillar. And then we're getting the Duel. 1 versus 1 tug of war. Now, we saw the Mandala situation with Druid City. Is the Duel version of things going to be that much different? Classic bag builder. 3 different win conditions, though. How do you feel about them apples? Because, again, it says 60 to 90 minutes for a Duel game. That's a little crazy for me for a 2-player head-to-head dueling game that length. You build your bag of special powers in order to control the areas. Same similar overarching features of Wonderlands War in the bag building, area control, card drafting. But again, differences, appeal, overlap, and then going back to Wonderlands War, right? Do you need more Wonderlands War? This is the actual gameplay content expansion compared to the replace the previous deck with the Shards deck expansion that they did previously. Wonderlands War got a ton of hype. I believe that was 2023. It's sitting right over there on my shelf. And I think a lot of people had that are area control fans pretty high on their list of top 10 games. I think it had several ones from several notable people as well. Are you still remembering that game? Or is it too many hype and hot cycles ago to remember in the first place? Patterson is also coming back to us with the one that put them on the map, Distilled, the final expansion of cocktails. Crafting your cocktails, crafting your liqueurs, now in plethora. In case the base game and the expansion weren't enough, you get the fine spirits to gain international renown. A big box spirited expansion, though. Second washback, customer appreciation with special mixers paired and spreading across the globe. Perhaps even seeking out a collector to attract your most prestigious spirits. New endgame scoring. Go back to the beginning of the video. Can you have too much of a good thing? Do you love this thing? It's a fantastic game. It's a reason it put them on the map. Do you need more? Do you feel the need for speed? More of this. Subsequently, Eldertide. 1,000 Lights, a spiritual storm from the folks who brought us Jisoji, I'm mispronouncing that, the anime studio tycoon game from last year. A lightweight economic Civ game. Asian-inspired seafaring kingdom, right? Esper Games is giving us something here. Crafted island nation states with political dynamics. Mid-weight, 10 rounds, and I have no idea otherwise, 1 to 2 hours Euro style. We'll just see what they've got in store middle of the month. Arackhan Wars. I'm sorry, I owe them an email too. They sent me a copy to play and they kind of went through months ago, Nothing But Games. And it's a tactical card game. It's like Summoner Wars if you couldn't move the cards around. And I guess that's where my disconnect has been, is that I don't deck construct as much, and there seemed to be a less overall overpoweredness than I was expecting. It's very, very strategic in terms of everything being similar strengths. Because you're bluffing, you're playing these cards face down on the map and revealing them with area control and sort of ability adjacency to go along with it. Now, with this version of things, the Song of Destiny core box is giving us, well, a new core box. I like the fact that they are very much upfront. 23 useful cards, no dead cards. And it is more war game-esque than I would say something like a Mind Bug, if you will, or even a Summoner Wars, even though that is probably the closest comparison in some way, shape, or form. And I guess the only thing that I can't tell, based on what is available on the web page right now, is what is the difference in this core box versus the other. Now, I guess there are some updates on the campaign page that talk about objective captures, prisoner rescues, resource gathering, target elimination, intelligence missions, and larger scale confrontations, whether or not you want to do the 2 versus 2 or the 3 or 4 style player elimination battle royale, or even just full cooperation in that way. So they're going to give new experiences with this, but is it going to be still for you if you were a fan of the first one? Is it going to go too much? Or is this going to be the entry point that you're looking for something a little bit of a step up? Terrorscape. If you had Terrorscape as like a huge, massive money raiser on the first one, I give you kudos, because, again, this is one of my blind spots. Horror genre, horror theme, horror mechanics is just that for me. Like, I don't personally have as much vested interest in that, whether it is any sort of media, truth be told. And so Ice Makes is giving us the 2 version, right? Hide and seek, hunter hunted, and who's the prey, who's the predator? Another of the Final Girl sort of Camp Grizzly-esque vibe type games. I think there's 1 or 2 other big ones out there. And so one versus all asymmetry though with this one. So again, just like Arackhan Wars, just like any of these expansions, although this one appears to be, again, standalone, something more akin to Final Girl in that way, where mix and match, get your own, do whatever you want. You're getting a bunch of new killers, 3 new killers, 5 new survivors, and a new stage in the core box of Season 2. But, if anything like Season 1, probably going to come with a few expansions of mix and match. Is this your vibe? You know, again, I love 1 versus all. But if you're just looking at the Board Game Geek page right now, this has absolutely nothing to tell you what makes this one unique from any other asymmetric type game, kill or be killed. And yes, you go back to the original Terrorscape page and they give you some information. Noise here, draw cards there, locations, blah, 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 keys, repair, radio, emergency call, unforgiving, asymmetric killer abilities. And each matchup is different. And we've got, you know, miniatures to go along with it. And it was a Geek Media Awards Game of the Year of 2024. So I guess it's really, really well thought of, truth be told. It's in the Board Game Geek Top 1000, which for horror in general, but especially 1 versus all, is really incredible. And so maybe I need to be looking at this one a little bit more personally speaking, because it hasn't really been a ton on my radar. So, you know what? Challenge accepted. I will. Speaking of things that are highly rated that you don't see anyone talking of, Art Society is coming back from Mighty Boards with a new expansion. I think it's like a reprint as well, too. A very interesting auction painting style game of a build-your-own collection, set collection, sealed bidding in the first place. Paintings you don't buy change the value of your collection. Friends in High Places is offering sort of a asymmetric character impression option, if you will. 3 personalities that you have to individually have the chance to impress, each impressing upon you a different gift that is then bestowed if you are able to do so. Trends to follow, powerful favors. First one to achieve it gets their choice of the 3 that suits them. And again, I guess that's what they've got in store for us. So if you missed it the first time around, you can still give it a look and see whether or not another auction art style game is your vibe. We are rounding this one out with a going back to Mercurial Alchemia, though, in this case. 12 years after the previous, well, not literally, but set in the world of Mercurial, right? As sort of this Splendor meets Century vibe golem, if you will, with a slightly ramped up combination of resource set collection. But this is actually doing more of the building side of things, not just with the straight card collection. More research management, bag build, multi-use cards. This is an alchemical engine tableau, if you will, that you're doing with multiple ways to win. This has a fairly extensive repertoire of words over on Board Game Geek if you want to see more of what it entails and how this engine is going to be built using your Alchemist as well as Arcana tiles even at the beginning of the game to diversify your options in paths that you may be treading. The interesting thing is they say depending on how many games you've played, you can add more things in order to increase the complexity. For example, they say by the third game you can do setup variability. The fifth game, incorporate the advanced content with the equilibrium mechanic, the advanced player boards, as well as additional objective cards. Your Res Arcanas, your Quacks, your those style of things. What's going to be the big standout differentiation for all of the other crowded tableau style market games? Honorable mentions here at the end. Endangered, Australia, Grand Gamers Guild, my local. I'm still trying to pick up a copy of this in a trade, but they're coming back from this cooperative style of things, and we're going down under, mate, because we're going down for New Australia. My accent's wavering there. We're done with that. New characters, new scenarios, new koalas, new mechanics, new innovative mechanics, and even deeper strategy and more intricate scenarios. The Great Barrier Reef scenario, and the Great Barred Frog scenario, and the Koala scenario, and the addition of the Prime Minister and the new Ambassador. Again, this is one of those games where I should have owned this game. I should have played this game by now from a, cooperative lover's standpoint, but it's just one that has just completely escaped my grasp and will eventually end up in my collection. Pathfinder Quest. Yeah, Pathfinder Quest. I'm not really sure how I feel about this coming later this month to Backer Kit. I mean, Paizo is bringing us another version of this adventure-style board game with adventure-based systems, choices, luck of the dice, and create your own character selection. Adventure book detailing each one of the, quote, one of possible dozens of adventures that you might experience. A challenge book containing the hidden outcomes of your choices, maps, custom dice, hundreds of cards, monster pawns, and select miniatures. I was not impressed with the last Paizo Pathfinder game that I previewed a couple years ago on the channel. I thought it was significantly underdeveloped, and I think there was an overemphasis on the miniatures when they actually did the crowdfunding page. They tried to make the value without any of the stretch goals being included, and it kind of flopped. And I don't know what to expect with this one, because it reminds me of half a dozen other games when you've got the adventure choose-your-own style books that you're mixing and matching between. And so, I don't know really what to make of this one either. Then, last but not least, Super Boss Monster 2, Boss Junior as well is coming, and we'll just kind of see what they have in store for us in that way. Again, Super Boss Monster is a game where I just look at it and I go, I should like this, my kids should like this, I should really be interested in this. Literally 12 years ago when this came out, and it was actually one of my first games in my board gaming career, that I was just like, yeah, I thought I was going to like it more for what I thought it was, not what it actually was. And so Brotherwise is going to show us what they've got in store with this next latest iteration, Junior, if you really otherwise need that. But we'll kind of see where this one goes in addition. So that is frickin' September. I told you, long video, long list, and lots of games getting thrown around. So hold tight to your wallets, sub me, and let me know what you want to see more of. Peace out. Stay classy.